Hello and welcome to the Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast. If you're joining us on the YouTube stream, hello, wave, everyone, wave. You're already waving. Good work, good work. Hello and welcome, and thank you very much for joining us. If you're listening to us on the audio version of the podcast, awesome. Thank you so much for listening to us. You can also watch us as well. Who knew? It's amazing. Anyway,
Tom, I hate to stop you there, but Tom, Dan thinks he's being a sexy cat, and I don't know how to deal with that.
Tom told me I had to do this last week. So now I'm doing it, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm doing as I'm told, like a good little worker bee, okay?
He's very good. He does what Daddy tells him. It's all good. Okay, so yeah, anyway, we are the Too Much Time on Our Hands team, the awesome foursome. I'm just going to go around in random order. Russ, hello.
Greetings.
Dan, hello.
Howdy.
Duncan, hello.
Bonsoir.
And I am Tom. Hello, nice to meet you. So if you've seen on our Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, you will have seen that tonight we are going to be covering our epic World Cup of TV themes, the semi-finalists. So that's the four TV themes. And Dan has been doing loads of research. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into those themes. So with no further ado, I'm not going to wank on. I'm going to hand you straight over to Dan, 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 do Dan, 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 do Dan, 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 Dan.
Yeah, anyway, that might be a clue to something that made it through the final four.
Well, before you go too heavy on the jokey names, you can't actually see them.
Okay, well, I had fun. Well, people can't see them on the thing.
Not Dan and Tom's tonight because of the way the little frame thing around the outside. Do you know what? Just for you, I'll turn it off for a little bit. There we go.
Yay!
Yay!
And that's your lot.
Okay, cool. So we deep dive into the four theme tunes that made it. We will be revealing the ones that made it as we go through. Very exciting. I like all of these theme tunes. I'm very happy about them. And we're going to have a little chat about each one, what we like about each one as well, why we think it's made it, and the deep dive into the history of each one as well, which might be long in some cases and might be a lot shorter in some other cases as well.
Depending on how long the relevant Wikipedia pages are.
Pretty much, yes. I'd like to read all my sources. Wikipedia.
Yeah.
No, there's loads of other sources. I've done a load of homework today, so.
I got some stuff from the Red Dwarf wiki fandom.
Well, let's start there then, shall we?
Well, why don't we reveal the four? Why don't we reveal our four semi-finalists and we'll go from there. So Dan, do the honours.
Okay. So I'm going to bring up the what's it called, the bracket thing as it is as of quarterfinal. So I haven't revealed anything yet.
Okay, cool. So the first TV series that made it was Red Dwarf,
which beat I mean, I can see it. This is slightly unfair. You have to remember everything.
The A-Team. The next one was The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that beat The Mandalorian.
Oh,
yeah, plucky young upstart, The Mandalorian.
Did all right, The Mandalorian. I'm quite chuffed with the quarterfinal.
That's by far the newest thing on there, isn't it?
Yeah.
By quite a way.
Well, it dared to have a theme tune, which most modern series don't really. So.
I think the next youngest thing was probably Game of Thrones, very much cementing this as a World Cup of TV theme tunes liked by mainly British people about our age.
We'll get to why that potentially is when one of the actual composers talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then Cheers lost out to Doctor Who, which I think, Cheers, that was a fairly good run, but you're up against a juggernaut in Doctor Who there. And then finally, The X-Files narrowly lost out to The Simpsons.
Do you know what? And that was the one for me that I was watching with almost bated breath because that was 50-50 for a while.
That was really close.
And then it just tipped. It was like the EU referendum all over again.
Yeah, except
apart from not anywhere near as controversial. And you know what?
Much better thought out.
Yeah.
Ooh, hard Brexit take there. Oh, damn.
And there are justifiable reasons why The Simpsons got through.
Yeah, and we didn't fuck fishermen as well, so there is that as well. So let's start then.
So that gives us our semi-final matchups that will be running over the next week or so of Red Dwarf versus Doctor Who, Fresh Prince versus The Simpsons.
Yeah, you're much better at this than I am, Russ, so thank you.
I don't know about better, it's more just I can literally see it. It's on the screen right in front of me.
I'm not going to lie, I've got it on the screen in front of me as well, though, so...
It's an unfair advantage. Let's just call it an unfair advantage.
Yeah. So let's start then, shall we? Let's get into deep dives. Let's start with Red Dwarf. I think Red Dwarf is probably all of our favourite here, right?
Yeah, and I mean, probably has been since I was about 7.
Okay.
When did Red Dwarf start?
A while ago.
Quite
time ago.
Ages ago.
You know, I didn't actually write that down.
Hang on. I've got it here.
There you go. Yeah, this is the software flying start.
1988.
There you go. 1988.
So we were about sort of 6 or so when Red Dwarf started, which is probably about the right age to start getting into it.
So the Red Dwarf probably scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I remember that much.
Really?
Oh yeah, definitely. Not even so much a kid. Like the Legion episode particularly scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, there were some
Legion. That's
quite
like
intense
series.
ones, weren't
That's series 6, isn't it?
Yeah, a teenager, kid, whatever.
Oh no, I must have got in like I must have been started like in '91, Series 4, and then obviously there was replays and just watched them back. But Series 4 would have probably been my thing.
One of my favourite stories is Patrick Stewart on the BBC's Red Dwarf Night a long time ago, which I remember watching at the time.
I watched that, yeah.
I had an awful fever and I was lying in bed in my parents' room and they'd let me lie in there because there was a telly. So I was lying there and I'd watched the whole thing from start to finish in a sort of state of delirium. But the one thing that crystal clear stands out for me is Patrick Stewart saying the first time he saw Red Dwarf, he was just about to pick up the phone to his lawyers to say that there's a TV show in Britain taking the piss out of the fine establishment of sci-fi that Star Trek has laid down. And he said over the course of the next 5 minutes, he started pissing himself laughing. And any hostility towards it melted away. And it became a firm favourite. And actually, he said it was about time someone did something like this.
After the research that I've done today, and we're going to try and stick to the theme tune because there is almost certainly going to be a whole episode on Red Dwarf at some point. But after the research I've done today, there is no question that probably next thing on my list is to go back and watch all the episodes of Red Dwarf, because I haven't watched anything after series 9. I want to say
it goes a bit shit at the end. I'm not that averse to the more recent stuff that's been done on Dave. That's actually been quite good. But the I mean, we can go into this at the time. It lost the plot when it was anything other than Lister being the only human left. That was the entire. That is the USP, the entire underpinning of the entire show. So when all the fucking rest of the crew come back and Kachansky comes back, it completely loses all meaning.
Let's use that to segue into the actual theme tune then, because the theme tune itself is meant to be about being somewhere you wish you were, rather than it's not a theme tune that's. There are other theme tunes that we're going to talk about. You know what they are. The Fresh Prince theme tune, for example, tells you the plot of the TV series, whereas the Red Dwarf theme tune doesn't tell you the plot of the TV series. It tells you the mindset of the main character of the TV series. So the composer of the Red Dwarf theme tune was Howard Goodall. And he got into composing theme tunes when he met Rowan Atkinson and Richard Curtis at Oxford University, when they invited him to write the theme tune to Not the 9 O'Clock News. So he then went on to write theme tunes such as The Thin Blue Line, Vicar of Dibley, Mr. Bean, QI, Blackadder. That was the second theme tune I think he wrote, was Blackadder.
So some hits, some misses.
A lot of hits, though, to be fair. A lot of Rowan Atkinson stuff as well.
I don't like the QI theme tune.
I mean, that was later on. So when I saw an interview with him, like half an hour talking about Red Dwarf, and it was just so much fun. He wrote the theme tune, he played it to the cast, and they believed it to be a rough cut with deliberately silly lyrics. And then it turns out the final version is almost identical when it was released. He said that the one thing he wanted to do when he wrote the Red Dwarf theme tune was sit down and write something that isn't specifically funny, because he doesn't want to take the piss. He wants to let the show do all the funny stuff. And the other thing he said was he didn't want to write anything that was deliberately sci-fi at the time. He said that if you write something that is the big issue that sci-fi often has is if you write something that sounds sci-fi with synths and whatever, then that immediately becomes dated within 2 years. So what he wanted to do was write something that was already retro, already nostalgic. So he came up with the idea of
the only other way you go is like Star Trek and go sort of orchestral and classic.
Yeah, and he does a bit of that as well. Like the actual opening part of the theme tune is that's his. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the first few series. That's sort of the main lead in, isn't it?
But it's still connected. It's still the same tune as the actual theme tune as well. Like it connects so nicely to it.
So are we talking about the version with the lyrics, or are we talking about the version without? Because obviously, the version without.
We're talking about all of them. They all count, and they all count towards
because they are
it winning
technically just
when it inevitably
variations.
does.
They're all variations of actually the same song.
Yeah. So the point of that was that, as he said, he wanted to write an intro that then said it was sci-fi, said it was a bit orchestral basically, and wanted to do something a bit epic, a bit 2001-y.
I thought it was meant to like also represent, to fit with the size of the ship. It was meant to be grand because Red Dwarf was meant to be huge.
Yeah, so it fits perfectly with the first scene where you see like cleaning the actual Red Dwarf sign, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and then you see the white of the Red Dwarf sign, and then you see the fact that is just covering the bit that says Red Dwarf, and it expands further, and you see this giant mining.
I love the original design of the ship is so where it's got like an asteroid just stuck in it. And it's like a little lumpy little fist type thing.
Yeah, that's so good.
They ruined it in the later series by making it all long and sleek and too cool looking.
So yeah, he says he didn't want to fall into a trap of making it sound dated, which I don't think he does. I think that's the best thing about it. So as a result, what he wanted to do was make a theme that was deliberately retro from the start. So settling on a 60s style, he said. Influenced, he thought, like, it's such an upbeat theme tune. He went with like Phil Spector and his Wall of Sound kind of feeling for it, and it really is that.
He didn't start recording it by threatening people with the gun.
No.
You will play this many times.
No, Howard Goodall seems like he's got his head screwed on a bit straighter than Phil Spector did. So he goes into detail about how you create that sound. This documentary is like, it's a half an hour YouTube video, and it's amazing on the Red Dwarf theme tune. Basically, it goes into technique about doubling the bass, like so it's just like octaves for the bass, but in that, and that creates this massive sound. He does that about 6 times to make this big echoey feel. So he specifically wanted a song which wouldn't be possible nowadays. He specifically wanted it to be this 1 minute long song, and he said at some point the rules changed. Like theme tunes were allowed to be a minute long and incredibly descriptive, whereas now 25 seconds and you're going to have talking over the top of that 25 seconds anyway. Red Dwarf wouldn't necessarily exist nowadays, although Game of Thrones kind of changed the rules there a bit, didn't they? Because that is an epic intro.
It did a bit, yeah. There's quite a lot of like the sort of the Netflixification of things, and the skip intro button have sort of ruined theme tunes. And even when like Glow had an awesome animated intro for the first series, and then that got dumped to like a 5-second sting going forward.
He so he wrote the lyrics as a guide apparently, and then they just used them. They really liked the idea that, he said after seeing some of the scripts, he goes, Lister's always talking about like Fiji, and like how he'd love to be in Fiji rather than on this giant mining ship with a dickhead hologram. He didn't say that, I added that bit. But
he's going to live on Fiji, and he's going to have a sheep and a goat and breed horses.
Yeah. And the whole thing is like he
with a sheep and a goat. No, with horses and horses.
He talks about how there's actually a 5th and a 6th verse to the Red Dwarf theme tune. It just goes further into this idea of just this horrible, like almost like Brits on the piss abroad kind of feeling, like how he's going out in the sun, his nose is peeling, but he doesn't care, and it's like. Yeah.
Would you like some of them?
Yes.
I want to taste lobsters and coconuts. I want to swim nakedly, get quite drunk in several wooden huts. Fun, fun, fun.
It's definitely less polished lyrically, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think swim quite nakedly isn't grammatically solid.
I want to sprawl, shipwrecked and comatose. I want some sand on my bum. Goldfish shoals nibbling at my toes. Fun, fun, fun. Anyway, you should look it up. The other lyrics are brilliant. There are multiple.
The funny thing is, though, the sand up my bum bit is like, I mean, that's the whole point of Rimmer. Like,
Yeah.
is to make sure that Lister basically spends the rest of his life sane because he feels like he's got sand up his crack because he's got Rimmer all the time.
So singing it is someone called Jenna Russell. He worked with Jenna Russell on a musical previously, and he picked her because she has a deliberately Ronnie Spector-esque voice, and she really does. Like, I'd never even thought about it as like a Phil Spector-esque tune, but it really is,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's he deliberately picked her, and he played her, and she loved it, but he played her at a tone lower than he actually wanted to perform it. So, like, when she comes in, she's really straining her voice to get that right. Like, and you can kind of hear it, but she still just nails it. Like, she's got such a perfect voice that you can't imagine anyone else singing that. And it's just really, really great theme tune. And the more I dived into it, the more I kind of loved it as well. And the more that I saw that this was something that he was obviously incredibly proud of, that kind of helped as well. So then he talks also about like how he did a lot of like anytime they wanted like incidental music, and he did most of the score for Red Dwarf. Like he would initially in the first couple of series there'd be like, okay, something actiony's happening, so can you do something based around the theme tune for this? Something sad's happening, can you do something based around the theme tune for this? And then as the seasons went on, they'd come up to him and go, could you do as a version of the Neighbours theme that's actually about androids and stuff like that? But it's still like, you've listened to it, it's still got a bit of the Red Dwarf theme tune in it. And he says like after that the rules became stricter, so you couldn't do things like that. But he did at that point get an orchestra, which just changed everything, he said. In season 4, he got to do the theme tune with like an Elvis style, or Rimmer doing it on an organ. And he says he just got to have a load of fun with like playing around with different organ sounds to make it sound as shit as possible, basically, for Rimmer doing it like it was the organ practice.
The Hammond organs.
Yeah. So series 7, he used a full orchestra for like a variety of things, and he said that's when it really kind of kicked up a notch and it started to feel cinematic. It's just such a great theme tune, and like you can tell he had a ton of fun. He sang the Rimmer Munchkin song.
Such a good song.
It's such a great song, and he didn't write the lyrics, I don't think, but the goal was to make it sound. He said he could have done it in a Disney way, but he wanted to make it sound really pompous. And like, so he
write
went
the lyrics, didn't he? Didn't he do the whole thing?
He was given like the original lyric of like certain things that rhyme, and he goes, "It's utterly ridiculous," and I kind of loved it. So I kind of
love it because it's all the things that Rimmer's proud of. Like he's also a fantastic swimmer.
Yeah. He's not bald, so his head doesn't glimmer. Yeah. So like, he wanted to make it sound like a Police chorus style song, and it just absolutely nails it. Like I went back and listened to that. That's great. He wrote the basic part of Tongue Tied, went away for a weekend and saw that Danny John Jules and Craig Charles had turned it into a whole song after spending a weekend in a recording studio, like turning it into a whole thing.
And then Danny John Jules released it.
Yeah, and he didn't know about that. He came back and goes, "What happened to that song that Danny was going to release?" And he goes, "It's number 17 in the charts." So he goes, "So I went to HMV and bought it." But yeah, like the thing that really appealed to me wasn't just the fact that this theme tune is excellent. And I mentioned before we started, he says like when they brought the electric guitar bit in for when they put it into the intro, he said to him, I want it to just go nuts at the end, and I want it to like just sound like discordant and like almost as if Liszt is playing the guitar basically. And he says you can't do that with session musicians because they always just get things perfect. So like, so he said it sounds kind of crazy, but his idea of crazy is still within the parameters of what the song sounded like. What he originally wanted was just this completely crazy mess at the end of the theme tune.
Yeah, it's still competently played by the end.
Exactly, yeah.
It's probably not what they were thinking.
And says one of his regrets was not just getting some guy off the street in to do it. Just say like, just go crazy at the end. But yeah, I fell in love with the Red Dwarf theme tune all over again this afternoon, and I absolutely love it. Like, there's part of me that was wondering whether it deserved its place in this top 4.
Heresy.
When you see the other names, but then you saw how much effort's been put into it, and you see that every one of the theme tunes that's made it is very different as well, which I'm very excited about.
If this had been tossed off on the back of an envelope in 30 seconds, it would still be just as good.
I mean, it pretty much was. Like, he wrote this very quickly.
But
well,
it's,
things
I mean, it is just cracking.
Yeah.
It fits the show perfectly.
Yeah.
It's just a great sing-along.
it fits the show perfectly whilst also not fitting it at all, which is just great.
Which is why it fits the show perfectly.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is basically a bunch of misfits.
Yeah.
Like, Lister is not your typical hero.
No.
Rimmer is far from being heroic. The cat is just an evolutionary nightmare, and then bringing Kryson in later on is like a neurotic OCD android.
He also said he loved doing the Ace Rimmer stuff as well. Like, he says he got to do like a bit of Top Gun in there, and he liked that.
I love that.
Oh yeah, in the Rimmer episode, there is the sort of boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Smoke me a kid.
Exactly. I'll be back for breakfast.
I've used that in the panto before, so
I wish I could bongo, but lunch is on Millie.
Nice. Richard Biddle says the first 8 series are on Netflix, so I might start it tonight. Even is what I'm thinking. Start working my way through it again tonight.
I mean, it's just amazing.
I will say I use this as a little lullaby. Well, not even a lullaby. Sometimes I just sing it anyway because Villain sings it now. So for me, it was a no-brainer that this was going to. I was always going to vote for it.
It's just when you take a step back and look at Red Dwarf, it shouldn't have succeeded.
No.
You know, it was a zero-budget sci-fi that managed, in a lot of respects, to look as good as some proper serious films of the time. Like, it nails its aesthetic so well. You know, if there was to be a British company operating a mining vessel, that is exactly what it would look like, and it would just be all shitty and scummy and horrible. It's got such a great, like, used, you know, it looks like something from Alien. It's not trying to be sleek and cool at all. You've got like the sole representative of humanity, who is the last possible person that anyone would choose. And they even did stuff like that. You know, they've decided there's no aliens in it. I mean, they kind of bend the rules a little bit sometimes with Gelfs and things like that. But you know, it's literally, there's just nothing. There's just him on his own with these complete bastards around him, and he's never ever going to get back to Earth or meet anyone new ever. That's just because, you know, like, if Star Trek went, but they're not going to meet any other people, and there's going to be no aliens, and there's only 4 of them, and only one of them's alive and a human.
I kind of find it hard to. I know there's people that aren't in love with it, and that's fair enough.
Well, you know, some people are idiots. There's not a lot you can do about it.
I just like that theme tune alone should be enough to say that you're probably going to enjoy what you're about to watch.
It's difficult to listen to that and not have a smile on your face. The only one that makes me feel the same way these days is the Brooklyn Nine-Nine music, which is quite similar in a lot of ways, in that it's just like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this.
And also with the visual link of actually between those two is that Brooklyn Nine-Nine uses clips from the show really well to introduce the characters, and actually the Red Dwarf theme was always set to really, really good moments from that series.
Yeah, I used to get so at the start of the first episode of a new series of Red Dwarf, when they'd change all the clips that were in the intro, and you hadn't seen those episodes, you're like, oh, look at that. Really exciting.
True story about Red Dwarf. It made me quit Scouts. Because it was on Friday nights, and that's when I had Scouts. I'm like, I can't bother with that. I'm going to watch Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
9 o'clock, BBC Two.
Yeah, you have chosen wisely.
Yeah. Right, we ready to move on? The next one?
Yeah.
Reluctantly, I suppose. Yeah, we're better.
Fresh Prince.
Yeah,
of
and
Bel-Air.
there's some other competitors still in this.
3 other theme tunes that would probably, they're all right. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and it's the only song on the list that contains the basic plot of the show in the theme tune. And that happens a lot in theme tunes as well, particularly American shows. That happened a lot. So, Yo Home to Bel-Air is the actual title of the Fresh Prince.
Oh, is it really?
It's rumored that the music was at least partially written by Quincy Jones, but Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff knocked this out in 15 minutes. So, Will Smith was on tour with Jazzy Jeff when he went to audition for a show that was being put on NBC. And from then on, it kind of spiraled into Will Smith can write the theme tune. So he took the idea back with him to Jazzy Jeff, and that evening they just went into a studio and knocked out the whole theme tune pretty much, and brought it back. Now, this is something I never considered. This Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a TV series containing a black teenager that was replacing Alf. And it was the first thing on primetime TV that had hip hop in the theme tune. And that
Really?
was surprisingly a big deal. Because up until then, people didn't know that there was a difference between Two Live Crew and Will Smith. Like the idea that hip hop can be like,
in terms of a
fairly
gentle
tame.
introduction to the world of hip hop, I mean, this is very much going in at the shallow end.
Yeah, like this is probably, I would imagine this would be in the top 10 most famous hip hop songs around the world.
I suppose if you categorize it in that,
Yeah.
like, as a
But it was
song,
actually,
then yeah, probably.
it was only released in 2 countries. Wasn't
It was
Like
released
Spain
in-
and,
it was-
Spain and Netherlands.
Yeah, and Netherlands, they fucking love this theme. That's the thing that came across when I was reading up on this.
So
It
you like
reached-
released as a single in those countries?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only place you can buy the soundtrack on CD is the Netherlands.
Which surprises me because it is so memorable and so popular, and it is used everywhere. Like it's so parodied. But anyway, sorry. Dan.
I don't think of an occasion. I don't think any one of us can say hand on heart that we haven't been drunk at some point and tried singing along to it.
Everyone thinks they know the lyrics perfectly, don't they? And you
Exactly,
probably
yeah.
do if you have a pencil and a paper and 10 minutes to
Yeah.
think about it and you're not 6 pints in.
Exactly, yeah. But I think everyone at some point tries singing along to the Fresh Prince theme tune because
I don't know if my dad's tried it at karaoke yet, but I think
he
he'd
has
probably nail it. That would be the challenge. I'm
yeah,
gonna message him
Okay.
and say that he's got to do this.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. That's all right. I mean, you could do it after the pod.
I'm not gonna do it now. Sorry,
I thought
You
you
look
were.
like you were getting up to leave.
You're just gonna-
gotta go and do this now. It's very important.
Just him walk
Gotta
out,
go.
the door shuts, hear a car start.
8 hours later, I might as well see Dad.
Yeah. What are you doing? Well, I've been podcasting for 8 hours. So you've gone out of focus, Duncan.
That's all right, I
Right.
prefer him like that, don't worry. There he is.
So yeah, like I never thought about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme tune being culturally significant, but it actually is. Like it's,
What is it like?
it's a pretty
Definitely,
big deal.
I would call it culturally significant, but not. It would never occur to me that it was culturally significant in the sense of introducing large sections of the demographics of the world to the concept of hip hop. That literally never occurred to me.
The funny thing is that I read the Wikipedia article about this before this, and I saw at the bottom it said reception-wise there was an MTV article that said something along the lines of that the show wrapped 20 years ago and people are still spouting the lyrics from it.
Yeah.
Shows just how significant a song this was.
Yeah.
And also I was interested to know that the actual name of the song, it's informally known as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but it's actually called
Yo Home to Bel-Air.
Bel-Air, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's yeah.
Yeah. So like Andy Borowitz, one of the show's creators, describes it as one of those scenes when a young teenager comes in with a hip hop record and he sits there, nods and smiles and goes, "Yeah, I'm sure that's good." Like when he first heard it. And it really was. Like the thing I'll always say about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme tune is I couldn't tell you the plot of a single episode of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but I could probably get 80% of the lyrics to the theme tune right. Which I think says an awful lot about how important that theme tune actually is.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for me was one of those shows that I would always watch on BBC Two and have no idea where in the continuity that episode was,
Yeah.
but would always find it funny. And
Yeah,
would,
same.
You know, invariably, I mean, I don't remember ever watching an episode that didn't make me laugh, even when they did some of their more critically acclaimed kind of more serious episodes
Yeah.
that dealt with, well, you know, all sorts of serious subjects, really.
Ready for the list of who's covered the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme tune?
Oh, Jesus.
It is a list of bellends that is redeemed by the last two. Okay, so Ed Sheeran's done a cover of it, which I
Fuck
never
you.
want to hear. Jimmy Fallon,
Ellen,
Lonely Island. Okay, Logic.
Lonely Island.
Okay, One Direction did a version of it as well. Apparently,
Ellen's.
I'm morbidly curious about that.
the version that redeems it all. Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street did a version of it.
Kick ass.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that kind of redeems everything.
Any
really.
other good ones? I mean, Lonely Island. It's not so bad.
It's Lonely Island did it when they did like a Will Smith mix or something.
It's a medley, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It's- yeah.
Jimmy Fallon did it when he was dressed as Neil Young, which makes it 10 times worse. Fuck off, Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, God, I hate Jimmy Fallon.
I do as well, right? I don't know what it is about him. He's just... Oh, I know what it is. He kind of supported Trump till it wasn't cool. That'll be it. I think, as I say, the theme tune is something that people know better than the actual TV series, and that surely is the mark of a great TV series. Okay. Maybe not necessarily the mark of a great TV show, but I think people would argue that it is actually a pretty great TV show as well. Couple of comments. Rich Biddle said, also depends which version they play. I'm assuming you mean the Fresh Prince theme tune, because that can go on for about 5 minutes, depending on which version you listen to. Dan says, Fresh Prince was something I only watched because I was waiting for Star Trek to come on. And man from my own heart there, because that's kind of why I watched the Fresh Prince as well. It's like Next Gen's on soon.
It was earlier, wasn't it? It was like 6:30 or something.
Yeah, so I'd watch that waiting for Next Gen to come on and see Patrick Stewart grace my TV screens. Also, I didn't
That's the hardship of the pre-video on demand era. It's pretty hard to believe we made it through, isn't it?
I know there was a lot of waiting, wasn't there? There was a lot of just sitting around watching
every generation has their thing. You know, First World War, Second World War, having to wait for shit to show up on TV at a time when they decided, not when you decided.
But
we were all there.
People had video recorders, and you set the timer. I mean, I'm pretty sure for some things I would set the timer just so I could watch next in an episode. I don't think I ever recorded Fresh Prince, but
Duncan's auditioning to be on I Love 1993.
It all got a lot easier when TV Guides published the 8-digit recording code.
Oh, Video Plus. Yeah, that was
Video
fucking
Plus.
revolutionary.
Revolutionary.
Can you imagine?
Although it didn't I thought it was like somehow intelligently linked to when the show came out, but it just sort of, it was like a barcode. It just sort of meant
it's
start this time, end this time. So if they moved the program, your Video Plus code would carefully record half an hour of El Dorado that you didn't want.
And then they set they added that feature which was starting and ending 5 minutes either side. So it would kick in 5 minutes before the barcode's time period, so that should anything happen or the thing miss its mark. Yeah, it was very, very clever. Just to illustrate the whole waiting thing, my son, my 6-year-old son, who is obviously at home, and I'm homeschooling on Wednesdays and Thursdays while his mum's at work. He came in to my office about 5 minutes after I said to him, right, telly's going off for a couple of hours, you can entertain yourself doing something, or you can come into the office with me and blah, blah, blah. 5 minutes later, comes up the stairs and just goes, Daddy, this might be the hardest time I've ever had. And I was like, what's wrong? He's like, 5 minutes without telly or YouTube, it's really hard. I just said to him, go away.
Go and work down a coal mine.
Go away.
I mean, he's not wrong. Nowadays, I'm like, I've got 5 minutes to spare. I've got a mobile phone.
Yeah.
I'll look up the history of asparagus.
My son did, like, if we're watching a particularly good video watching tractors mowing grass in Germany somewhere, of which there are a strangely huge amount of on YouTube. When the advert pops up and it's saying like advert 1 of 2, 30 seconds, he looks like his world has ended. So, what is this bullshit?
The phone gets handed to me, and I go skip ads, hand it back, or if it ends, the phone gets thrown and goes Digo.
It's okay. Then your son is Thor. That's great. Another.
Pretty well.
I mean, you do. What are you watching? Is that just a tractor mowing grass in Germany? And then, like 45 minutes later, you're both sat there going, "Oh, it's taking there. That's nice. It's really straight lines. I think it's linked to like a GPS system. It looks like that. It's really look. It's tracking the amount of trailers at the event. And then, sort of 2 hours after that, you realise that you've stayed up until 3 a.m. watching tractors.
I wish I had an excuse, but I don't have a kid. And I know.
But I don't think these things aren't done for kids. I think probably about 60% of the audience of them is the pre-6-year-old demographic and associated parents, but they're not created for children.
As I say, the one thing I can't stop watching is boats, like giant ships being beached to be broken down. Like the idea of just ramming this giant ship at a beach is just does something to me.
My latest procrastination, and I feel I I hate myself, but I will sit there for ages watching those idiots in cars videos of just compilations of people bumping into each other at traffic lights.
Yeah, me too.
It's basically the same clip 100 times, after which you go, knobhead, after every one.
Do you want to know when it got pushed up another level to me? Is that if you type in idiots in cars and then your hometown, like loads of videos still come up. Like, not only am I going to watch some
Oh, I'm just gonna do a bit of live googling here.
Yeah.
London Coney
Idiots
roundabout.
in
Nobody
cars.
ever gets the fucking lane right, do they?
Yeah.
Knobhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one that comes up. Caught on UK dashcam. Idiot driver crashes straight into car in Hemel Hempstead.
Exactly. Like as soon as you find out that you can like
I'm definitely doing that as soon
make
as we're
it
off
load.
this. Can we wrap this up? Because I wanna get on that.
Yeah. What's the other ones? Doctor Who, something else. Right, done. Brilliant. Yeah. If you want to feed into anything.
A couple of points. Dan says, I think this is in regard to Video Plus, films being interrupted by 10 o'clock news. Oh, that was the worst.
God, that was it?
Why?
It was ITV, wasn't it? That
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah. Why start the film before the 10 o'clock news? Like it's Watershed, wasn't it? It's the 9 o'clock Watershed. You had to get it like.
Yeah, you could if a film was sort of tame to start with and then had sexy
Yeah.
bits, it had to get split
Yeah.
in half by the news.
Yeah. Like, and at that point, you're not in the mood for the sexy bits once you found out about the Gulf War. So
It's very difficult to.
Yeah.
Watch.
I think you just have to power through. Just like
Maintain a steady pace all the way through the news.
Yeah.
Dan says he still hasn't seen the end of Golden Child because of it.
Excellent. You win tonight. Well done. Best comment of the night.
We're ready for some Doctor Who.
Oh yes.
Buckle
Indeed.
up, guys, because this one is relatively historic compared to the others, really.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sort of like actual cultural and
Significance is
technical
huge.
impact, this is the most significant one.
It
so-
kind of created a whole genre of music,
They create
It's-
dance music.
and
Well, electronic what
Yeah.
you could call electronic music, even though it was all analog, was
So this is-
that was basically pioneered here, wasn't it?
Yeah. So this is easily the oldest theme on the list. It's potentially one that is the most recognisable as well. It's had a few iterations in the past, but when it changed, it still very much stays the same theme tune. For nearly 60 years, this theme tune has been the soundtrack to watching primetime TV show Behind a Cushion. The theme itself preempts an unknown feeling. I actually wrote some stuff about this. Preempts an unknown feeling from the show, a spooky affair that is as revolutionary as it is memorable. So the theme tune was written by an Australian composer called Robin Grainer and performed by Delia Derbyshire. Grainer left Australia in 1952 after a stint in the Australian Air Force, picking up a 3-month stint playing piano in a nightclub and touring the UK with a comedy act called The Allen Brothers in June, which would see him hit on the head nightly by a falling grand piano lid and then fall backwards into the orchestra pit.
Nice.
Grainer
See, that-
also
I've
made...
got how do you write something like the Doctor Who theme? How do you write that sound down?
We're gonna get to that.
That's crazy.
Grainer also made a run at Eurovision Song Contest with an entry called Don't Cry Little Doll, which made it to number 4 in the UK qualifying rounds.
well done.
Yeah, I think I've done that before. No, that seems like very possible. So in 1960, however, he started his career in composing for TV shows. Started with the theme tune to May Gray, which won an Ivor Novello Award, which opened up his career basically. From then on, he wrote theme tunes to things like Steptoe and Son, Tales of the Unexpected, The Prisoner, and of course Doctor Who. The other partner involved in this is Delia Derbyshire. She joined the BBC in the 1960s as a trainee studio manager after being turned down from Decca Records because they don't employ women. Derbyshire said she developed a love of abstract music because of air raid sirens, saying that during the war, saying that they were electronic music. So in 1962, she was one of the few people that actually wanted to be assigned to the Radiophonic Workshop, which is the BBC's Radiophonic Workshop. Did all kinds of things like theme tunes, music, and now you can get like all the samples that, I don't know if it was them that did it, but they did a lot of crazy stuff. She helped create a music and sound for nearly 200 radio and TV shows. In 1963, she took the Grainer composed Doctor Who theme tune and turned it into an early electronic masterpiece, potentially the first electronic masterpiece. Derbyshire took the bare bones of it and made it her own. When Grainer actually asked if he'd written it, and then she replied, most of it. The Derbyshire, however, then wouldn't be credited till 50 years later, with the Radiophonic Workshop preferring to its members to stay anonymous. which is completely unfair considering how iconic that theme tune is. So how they created it. Each note of the theme was curated by taking a tape with a single plucked note, white noise or harmonic waveforms of test tone isolators used for calibrating equipment. Then the note would be cut, spliced, sped up or slowed down to fit the song. So each individual note of the Doctor Who theme tune was taken and put on a tape basically after having been monkeyed around with. The main pattern itself is the cut from the oscillator that was mentioned before, hooked up to a keyboard. So what we have is one of the first instances of using a synthesizer to create dance music, or creating something that replicates a synthesizer.
Yeah, it's like signal processing, isn't it? It's sort of taking it's using the keyboard not as the instrument itself, but as input into a sort of like, well, it's not an algorithm, is it? But like a logic chain that produces the sound. It's crazy.
The methods, I think at the time, was called a musique concrete, because it's the construction of using recorded everyday or any sound and then turning that sound into a note, and that's why it was building music, and it was avant-garde French kind of style, but that's to a new level.
Child's play on something like Pro Tools nowadays. Well, relative child's play. I still probably couldn't do it, but then it was just like, if you think about, I mean, it influenced Pink Floyd. They come out and say that. And you think about all the videos you see of Pink Floyd putting Dark Side of the Moon together with just like rooms of just tape hung up everywhere trying to create these samples. I mean, this was there before that. This was
it was 100% analog. There was no digital processing in this. It was feeding things through oscillators and vectorscopes and weird things.
This was before multi-track recording even. So to record the final mix, tapes would all be queued up at the same time on separate machines, and then several people hit play at the same time to record this. So like, it's like how we used to record off the radio by timing it correctly. The Doctor Who theme tune, which is 60 years old, nearly 60 years old, 2 years away from being 60 years old, was recorded in a method that basically had several people hitting play at the same time, after each individual note was carefully sculpted. So we talk about most of these theme tunes taking like 15 minutes to write, or I did it overnight.
Yeah, this
was
a bit more work
of that. Yeah. So it's as I say, it's hard to overstate the Doctor Who theme tune radiophonic workshop put into this. But artists like Pink Floyd and Aphex Twin have name checked this theme tune specifically. And it just seems like such a crying shame that the person that managed to turn what would be a fairly ordinary theme tune by the sounds of things, if it wasn't for the electronic influence, didn't get like a name check for 50 years, which is just absolutely crazy. I say that everything on this has some kind of significance, and it's nice that we've got 4 very different theme tunes, but I mean, in terms of cultural significance, this is probably the most important one.
Well, there's also, I mean, in our Discord chat, it was highlighted that, was it the Orbital? Keep forgetting.
So upset that I didn't go to that.
Yeah, the Orbital did a massive dance remix, and
I would have.
It's one of the best. It's a great remix, and it works. And
love to have got hammered and then go and see the Orbital playing the Doctor Who theme tune at Glastonbury. That sounds amazing. Yeah.
That must have just gone off because it's got that perfect thwomp to it, and I mean, I thought it was everyone thinks it's a theremin, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't theremin. But I mean, you can play it on the theremin. But
yes, it's one of the very few pieces of music that you can play on a theremin without completely fucking murdering
it. You say that. It's quite easy to murder still on a theremin. But it even still sounds futuristic to this day. It 100%. Was meant to sound.
It sounds weird still.
Yeah, it sounds spooky.
It sounds unlike pretty much anything else you've heard of 60 years later. It must have frightened the shit out of people when it first came around.
I remember in the 80s it frightened the shit out of me, and then
he was known for writing stuff, I think, that he did something for the BBC.
He did a lot for the BBC.
Yeah, but one of the
Tales of the Unexpected.
There wasn't just Tales of the Unexpected, it was something else that he wrote. Hang on. Give me a second. That
the Prisoner as well.
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay.
Nope,
But
not-
we are doing a live stream, so like dead air
No,
kind
that
of
was-
isn't great. That's why I was kind of trying to fill it. But have a second. I'm just going to keep talking if that's all right with you.
No, it's not. That's a cheeky ass. That's it. He was involved in the writing of the music of Before the Sun Goes Down, and which also caused mass panic in 1959 because it was the music and the program itself. It caused mass panic, and it actually got raised in British Parliament about it. So he was known for these contributions to like dramatic and tense kind of things.
And bearing in mind, he had minimum effect on something he actually composed. This is definitely as much, if not more, about the
Delia did.
Delia Derbyshire, yeah. But at the same time, just what a perfect match that just happened by accident, pretty much.
There's not much greater compliment you can get for a piece of artwork than getting raised as a problem in the British Parliament.
Yeah.
Shows you're annoying the right people.
I forgot to mention one of my favourite facts about the Fresh Prince theme tune. In 2013, a student had it as his ringtone. The school phoned the student, and they heard what they thought was shooting some students outside of the school. And they locked down the school at that point, and he got arrested.
Of course, because that's not melodramatic at all, is it?
Yeah. So he was arrested, and he played it, and they realised it was the Fresh Prince theme tune, and that he wasn't going to go in and kill everyone in the school. Yeah, but once again, culturally significant. Yeah, Doctor Who. It's an awesome theme. Yeah. Ready for the last one? Yeah. Okay.
Simpsons.
It is indeed the Simpsons theme tune. Much like the Red Dwarf theme tune, Danny Elfman was aiming to create something that was had a classic film. After watching a rough cut of the intro, the first thing that inspired him was the Flintstones, which makes a lot of sense, really.
It's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah, silly me.
It's same song.
Yeah. So he actually wrote the whole thing on his way home from a meeting, and then immediately got in, recorded it. Took him like less than a day. It's taken some time. It's taken like the amount of times it's been reworked, like over the 32 seasons of The Simpsons, and it's still probably the same thing. I'd say Danny Elfman's probably the most well-known composer on here, depending on how much of maybe Will Smith actually, but also Quincy Jones, depending on how much of a say he actually had in the Fresh Prince theme. Elfman, though, was born in LA in 1953, growing up a fan of classic sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. After finishing high school, Elfman spent time in France as part of an avant-garde theatre group before travelling to Africa, busking, before he was forced to return home with an illness. This is where he was asked by his brother to be the musical director of a street theatre group called Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo, rearranging pieces from the likes of Duke Ellington and Django Reinhardt. Eventually, Elfman took over the singing duties, turning them into Oingo Boingo and turning them into a ska-influenced new wave band. And this is where Tim Burton first heard of Danny Elfman. Tim Burton was a fan of the band. So as a result, Tim Burton asked Danny Elfman to score Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the first film that he asked him to do. And from then on, 16 films, 16 Tim Burton films, Danny Elfman went on to do. Obviously, that includes, but not limited to, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare Before Christmas, Mars Attacks, and 2 incredibly memorable Batman scores, which, had one of which actually kind of had a brief existence on our top TV theme tunes list, because it's basically the same as the Batman animated series theme tune. He also worked on some cult classics such as Scrooged, Darkman, Nightbreed, Dick Tracy, and this one's for Dan, Midnight Run, which I still haven't had the chance to listen to, even though you said it was better than the film, but that's not saying much. I think that's how you described it. I will get around to listening to it, it's just not on Spotify.
I enjoyed Dick Tracy.
There's not much to the Simpsons story. I enjoyed Dick Tracy as well. Yeah, I thought Dick Tracy was all right. I mean, it's terrible, but I enjoyed it. Darkman, I really enjoyed though. There's not much to the Simpsons, the story of the Simpsons theme tune. Basically, he was asked to make a theme tune, and he made a theme tune, and he did it in like a day.
Right, the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Sing the theme tune, yeah. And that's actually true. He did kind of sing the theme tune. He sings the only lyric in the theme tune.
All 2 words of it.
Yeah, The Simpsons, 4 notes, 2 words. And he says that those 4 notes have made him more money than anything else he's done in his career. So he reckons that he got, including composing the Simpsons theme tune. He says because he got singing credits and royalties off the Simpsons theme tune, like singing the Simpsons with two mates, basically. He's earned more money from that, including health insurance for 25 years as well, because of that. He's earned more money off that than he has anything else he's done. So
Which imagine you get like 50 cents every time an episode of The Simpsons is played anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing pretty well.
He's worth $75 million, and he says that that's the thing that earned him the most money. That should say everything pretty much, really.
That is crazy considering what his film discography is. And then it's The Simpsons that's just made it.
Literally singing the word The Simpsons.
That's that's Mariah Carey levels of... I mean, that puts Mariah Carey in... Because she just makes all the monies every Christmas. And that one song makes her all the monies. But this is just... eclipses that completely, doesn't it? So...
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, he literally is... a millionaire. I mean, mostly because he was asked to write the Simpsons theme tune, but that's not what's earning him the money. It's the writing, it's the singing credits. Yeah, and just imagine being his mates, where he just goes, "Do you want to come and just do a couple of harmonies on? What do I have to do? Literally just sing the word The Simpsons." All right, cool. And then the amount of royalties you're now getting off of that to basically be set for life for what? Probably an hour's work, if that.
Pretty cool.
And that's pretty much the story of the Simpsons theme tune. I mean, it's probably the if you were to go out in the streets and ask people to hum these four theme tunes, that would probably be the one that most people could hum.
Worldwide, probably, yeah.
And probably the one with the biggest age range of people that you would be able to ask as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And, you know, there was a point when Homer Simpson was more recognisable than Jesus, which is to say everything about, like, how popular The Simpsons is and how ingrained in culture it is, and how the theme tune is a major part of that. Like, I think everyone on this podcast could in their head, like, pinpoint exactly what happens at every point in the Simpsons theme tune.
Yeah, you can map it out, can't you?
Yeah. Exactly.
I find it slightly interesting, without really knowing why, that we've got two sort of traditional songs with lyrics and two largely instrumental or entirely instrumental ones in the final.
It's bonkers because it's just ended up this way, but all four of these are probably four corners of like different TV themes, and it's worked out really nicely.
The interesting thing about The Simpsons was didn't he also aim for that kind of 60s sitcom type, 60s 70s sitcom? And I know yes, it was influenced by the Flintstones, but it was because of so it was again similar in like Red Dwarf was aiming for something that was retro at the time anyway,
Phil
so
Spector,
that it wouldn't age. And so we've got something that two things that were aiming for going retro so they wouldn't age, and then we've got Doctor Who, which was so far futuristic that it hasn't aged.
And also Fresh Prince as well, which was, you know, in terms of TV series, revolutionary. Yeah. But that's what's crazy about these. And like, you look at the ones that have gone that I'm unhappy about, and I'm like, yeah, I'm unhappy, but these four kind of are the ones that probably deserve to be there.
There's not been any major upsets, I don't think.
No.
I'm sad the X-Files got knocked out, but probably right.
Pretty certain that was a number one single.
But the thing, the thing is, the X-Files is directly linked to Doctor Who.
It owes a lot to Doctor Who, doesn't it?
The other thing about Fresh Prince, I suppose, is like Doctor Who. It was, it wasn't quite a new genre of music, but it wasn't quite as mainstream as. It
was new in terms of TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was that. Yeah. Especially, and what it did was highlight that you could have rap music on at 6:00 in the evening, and it's perfectly safe as well. Like Will Smith, it gets a lot of stick for being a safe rapper, and you know, I give a lot of that stick if I'm honest with you. But like, it's still might be a gateway into rap music in the same way that I think something like Into the Spider-Verse, the soundtrack to that, which is all modern hip hop, soul, R&B artists performing on it, but none of it swears, and it's all incredibly good as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't have to have adult content stickers on things to make them good necessarily.
No, but I do like swear words.
Yeah.
Here's the question: in 4 years' time, when we do this again, 4 or 8 years' time, when we do this again, do you think these 4 are going to be up the top again? I mean,
so I think it would be stuff. It's going to be stuff like The Mandalorian and Game of Thrones that aren't on there when we do this in 8 years' time, which is quite a depressing vision of the future as well.
We're gonna try and do different World Cups over the coming years. I think.
Yeah.
I've got some comments if you want to hear. So
always.
Why? Because what happens if they're the wrong comments?
Then we don't read them.
there's no such thing. Yeah. Jamie says Channel 5 still do this with the news, like midway through films, but the news is only 5 minutes.
Channel 5
But
still exists.
Yeah, Channel 5 still exists.
Blimey.
Yeah, is Shannon Tweed film still on there? I don't know. That was
okay.
that was my 90s for me. I don't know quite whether it still works. Adam Wolford says there's been a few really good shows on theme tunes, music and films recently. BBC 4 recently had a 2-hour show about scores on films. Was that the Kermode one? Cinema.
No, but those are great. There's a bunch of those popped up on iPlayer that I hadn't seen. The Kermode on cinema things.
Oh, I mean, I love Kermode. Anyway.
Also, there's nothing better than watching a BBC 4 documentary to make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
I am in the intellectual hoi polloi.
He says they were.
Isn't that what homeschooling should really be? Is just switching on BBC 4 going, right, well, I can't be bothered. You watch this. Learn something.
Yeah, it's that and the 1985, the 46 defense. That's what it should be. Yeah. He also says on Netflix there's something about The Nightmare Before Christmas, which had a lot of Ron Elfman. Yeah, like that was a big deal. The Nightmare Before Christmas. He got to perform a song from his own band, his old band on there as well. He also then says, Bucky O'Hare not even getting in is a disgrace.
We did talk about Bucky O'Hare, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, must just not got enough votes to get through to the
Dan also
group
agrees.
stage.
He says it's a shame it's been forgotten. Bucky O'Hare. Let's talk about Bucky O'Hare quickly then, because people have actually brought it up. It was a great theme tune.
Yeah.
But
it was. It was good, but like if I had to choose between that and Red Dwarf, which I suppose is the one it's most similar to, I'd go Red Dwarf.
I think that's the point, isn't it? It's like the thing is those 4 theme tunes that we got are pretty global in their reach, and Bucky O'Hare, while it might have global reach, it's certainly not on the same level as these 4.
I would say it probably deserved to get a little bit further than it did.
Really? Or are we just saying that because 2 people commented?
No, I love the Bucky O'Hare theme tune.
It didn't get through to the group stage, did it? So it must. No. At the end of the day, it's your fault for not voting for it.
To be fair, the person that has brought it up, he was pretty passionate about his get Bucky O'Hare through to the group stages.
I mean, I ticked it, so you know.
Me too.
Just,
and then also, now we've opened the floodgates. Jamie says Thundercats was better.
Oh, come on. Bucky O'Hare is basically...
Thundercats theme tune is not as good as you remember it being. Like everything else about Thundercats.
He's going to argue with that one, I think.
I'm just listening to Captain Bucky O'Hare just quickly. It's Faith No More when they were still doing Epic.
Oh my god, it is. Yeah, that's a really good shout. It does sound a bit like Faith No More.
But no, hang on.
It's got a little rap break in the middle as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. I like it though. Thundercats theme tune's good though. It's still good.
It's okay. Honestly, go back and watch an episode of Thundercats. It's fucking rubbish.
Okay,
it really is.
You've incited probably some hatred there, I reckon.
It's not as good as you remember it. Don't go back and look at it.
But we don't encourage the right to reply. So
if
you've got a problem with the picks, take it up with your MP, and it will find its way to us.
No, we are. I absolutely love that people are talking to us live on the stream.
I know, and I am joking. Obviously,
I know.
Feel free to engage with us on any of our social media feeds.
Yeah, bear in mind how passive aggressive you are at the start of every episode about why don't you watch us, you fucks.
and never once call them fucks, although that might work. So, I mean, obviously, you fucks. Why aren't more people watching this? You with your headphones in while you're walking to work, listening to it like some person with ears. When you've got perfectly good eyes. Christ.
We should do an entirely silent episode, just to fuck off the people that don't watch.
Just subtitles, just staring.
I did mean to ask, 5 minutes ish, maybe. What's the one theme that people would like to have seen go through?
I feel like
I don't know. I'd have to get the list up.
I feel like I miss that Mandalorian isn't there. I kind of felt like kind of felt like a more modern song could have done with being here. And if it was, I would have wanted Mandalorian to be that.
He's
song.
literally the only modern song.
To get into something like this and to win something like this, you do need a certain critical mass of like nostalgia, which the Mandalorian just hasn't had time to.
Cheers! I missed that Cheers didn't make it.
I think that the BBC News music should have got further than it did.
Yeah,
genuinely.
I agree, yeah.
And maybe something like Match of the Day.
Yeah, Match of the Day is great as well. No argument there.
Like, speaking of someone who has and never ever had any interest in football at all,
yeah,
I still love the Match of the Day theme tune.
It's a great theme tune, and it's one of those ones that you literally don't need to hear too much of it before you know what it is as well.
Well, just the little drum roll at the start is enough, really.
Yeah, you could be in another room and you could hear it come on. You'd know that football's about to be on television, which used to be so exciting for me, but now is less exciting, if I'm honest with you. But yeah,
and that's how
it would have been nice for Top Gear to get through. I quite.
Yeah, it's been unavoidably coloured by the bell-endedness of the actual show.
It's very true. It's very true.
I mean, I would still say one of my favourites still at the moment is Grace's Amazing Machines, because it is
too niche. Kids like current kid stuff is just too niche. I mean, it is a very good theme tune.
I'm also convinced it's the equivalent of Stockholm Syndrome as well. It's just because you're watching it. That's all you guys are watching. That doesn't mean it's any good. It's like Hey Doggy.
Watch an episode of Grace's Amazing Machines. It is better than Top Gear.
It really is.
I don't know. For me, it's always Maddie's "Do You Know."
I think she sings that herself.
Does she?
Yeah, she's actually singing the theme tune.
I just love the fact that there's this list of things that go up, things that go down, things that go pop, things that go down. You know. I'm just like, okay, keep going.
Yeah,
things that
because
go splat,
all things in the universe can be categorised into one of the 15 things that she sings about.
Yeah. Let's find out.
I just like that it's the darkness that does Grace's Amazing Machines. It is fantastic. And then the music all the way through is great. Like, the whole theme for Speedy is brilliant. And it's not just Stockholm Syndrome.
That is rubbish. That's just someone going, Speedy! It's it's far too... Yeah, not enough people have seen it.
I know, it's too niche.
When we do this in 20 years... all of our fans who are currently 4 will go, oh, do you remember Grace's Amazing Machines? And then we can talk about it.
If you're, by the way, if you're letting 4-year-olds listen to this, I mean, just don't in general. Jamie does say Round the Twist should have made it further, and I agree with that.
Emma agrees with that, I think.
Yeah.
Round the Twist should have made it further, shouldn't it?
Or you could put it down to it sort of being very like an Anglo-Australian audience, but I don't think we can't really claim that we've got enough of a worldwide audience for that to affect the voting, that people wouldn't be familiar with it.
Round the Twist was a weird show as well.
Oh, it's very weird, yeah.
There was an episode where the whole central mechanic was a boy being able to pee a really long way.
Yeah.
One time where the older brother's mouth...
Oh my God, that freaked me out so much. Yeah.
Was like little tiny mouth, and he hid it behind a scarf. I mean... fucking mental.
Really strange.
Where he couldn't say anything without my pants.
He had to end every sentence without my pants. And he had that great line, oh, we wouldn't bury you without your pants without my pants.
I agree, yeah. Round the Twist was a great theme tune. Really, really good.
That would have been good.
4 classics, though. We're going to get them up tomorrow. I'll get them all up together, I think.
Well, we're going to be watching with great interest to see who gets through to the final.
And I might put them up for a week. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, give people time to get their opinions in.
Definitely. Love it.
So there we go. Dan, thank you very much for doing all the deep dive on that and presenting such very interesting stuff about each independent song that went through. It was really interesting. You managed to find some really good nuggets there that I really liked. The Doctor Who one was the most interesting for me, listening to the technology. That's why I was silent the whole way through. I was literally just like... fucking hell, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's bonkers,
yeah, absolutely bonkers. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you watched, thank you very much for listening. If you listened, we're going to obviously, as Dan said, we're going to stick those up onto Instagram and all the other feeds. They're going to be up for about a week. Get your votes in so that we can do the final and find out which one is in fact the best TV theme song in our World Cup of TV themes. Again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. We're going to say goodbye to the team. Goodbye, Russ.
Laters.
Goodbye, Dan.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Sorry.
Duncan.
Bon week.
It's goodbye from me. Don't forget to hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter with @TMTOOH, and also look at the Instagram and Twitter feeds to find the Discord link. Join us. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. All sorts of fun, crazy tomfoolery. I'll say goodbye. I'll see you later. Wave to all the YouTubers. Bye, YouTubers. Cue the music.